This is the video tutorial for the Happy Days Memory Bear Avery, and this is how we make it. You'll need a selection of fabrics. If you are using stretch fabric, remember to put some interfacing on the back. You'll need some safety eyes, safety nose and some soft toy filling. And this is how we make it. Using your template, cut two backs. Use your template one way to cut one side, then flip your template over to do a mirror image for the other side. Now to do the front of the bear. Use your template as normal to do one side and then flip over for a mirror image of the other. Each piece has dart cutouts, one there and one there. And to make these darts, fold your fabric over and line up the edges and add a clip. And do exactly the same for this one. Fold over, you see, and add a clip. We're now going to take it over the sewing machine and using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sew carefully along this line, this dart, and this dart. I've sewn my darts. I've used red cotton, so you'll see what they should look like. And I've sewn that one. And you've got to repeat this for the other three pieces, exactly the same. I've sewn my darts. I've used red cotton so you can see it a bit clearer, so yours should be looking like this. And this is my other one. Sewn across. Again, I've used red cotton so it shows up. Now you've got to repeat this for all your pieces. I'm now working on the front of the bear. I'll put my darts in, and now I'm going to place them right sides together. The most important thing now is that this edge all lines up. So take your time with that, and when you're happy, add some clips. I've added all my clips around the curve, and now I'm going to take my template because I need to mark the position of where the nose will go. So place your template on top and using a heat erasable pen, make a little mark. So, I don't know if you can see it in the camera there. I've added my clips and I've made my mark for the nose gap. And now I'm going to take it over the sewing machine and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting at the top, sew all the way down. And then when we get to that mark, just leave a couple of stitches. It's only got to be a really small hole for the nose. And then start again the other side. And then carefully follow the curves all the way around and stop at the bottom. I've sewn all the way around, remembering to leave a tiny gap for the nose. And now I'm going to mark the position of the eyes. I'll place my template back on top because I'm going to mark the position of the eyes. So using an unpicker, poke a hole all the way through. So I can see the hole that my unpicker made. I've put a cross with my heat erasable pen both on this side and on this side. I've opened my fabric out because I'm going to make the holes now for the eyes. And this is how I do it. You may have a different way of doing it. But using the cross that I made, I fold over and then fold over again. And then take my small scissors and I make the smallest snip right in that corner. I've turned it round so you can see a bit better. I've added the eye to this side and I'm going to add the eye to this side, and the eyes come like this. And what you do, you push the stem of the eye through the hole you've made, and then you put the little back piece on the back to clip it in, as I've done on here. That's both the eyes in, and now I'm going to put the nose in. And if you remember, we left a small gap in the stitching around here, about here, and it's through that small gap that I'm going to put the nose, exactly the same way as the eyes. That's both eyes and his little nose in place, and now we're going to work on the back. We're now working on the back of the bear. Place your two back fabrics right sides together, and as we did for the front, ensure that this curved edge is all lined up. And when you're happy with it, add some clips. I've added my clips, and as I did before, I'm going to start sewing around this curve. I'm going to start here and stop here at my gap sign, start again at my gap sign and sew to the bottom and stop. I've sewn all the way around, remembering to leave my gap, and I'm now going to carefully snip around this curve for a much better finish when we turn it. I've carefully snipped around the curves and the curves down there. And now I'm going to open out the back. We're now going to join everything together. At this stage, double check that all your darts are sewn, and when you're happy that everything's ready, place right sides together on top of each other. Line everything up and add some clips. I've added all my clips and I've paid special attention to where my darts are on both sides so they both meet, and I've also paid attention to the seams here and here. Add lots of clips and lots of pins if you wish, and then take it over your sewing machine and take your time, sew it all the way around. So follow the contour of the pattern and his little cheek, his arms, and back to his legs. I'll be using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've sewn all the way around using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and once again I've used red thread so you can see clearly. You may wish to use a heat erasable pen to draw lines first of all. It may help you sewing, especially around the ears, which can be a bit tricky. Next, snip into the corners very carefully, don't go over your sewing lines, and round the ears and round the paws. I've snipped carefully all the way around, and now I'm going to turn it the right way out by pulling through the gap I left at the back. I've turned him the right way out, and now we're going to start stuffing. I'm going to start by stuffing the two little ears. Carefully turn him over, and using the gap, push your stuffing up to each ear. Remember, we're only filling the ears. I've added the stuffing into both my ears, and now I'm going to take it over the sewing machine, and from this dip to this dip I'm going to sew a line of stitches, and this will seal the stuffing in the ear. And I'm going to do the same from this little dip here across to this dip. I've stuffed and sewn my ears, and now we're going to start on the arms. And when I've stuffed the arms, I'm going to stitch from this corner up to here. And of course the same on the other side. I've stuffed both the arms, and I've also sewn across. Now I'm going to do the legs, and for the legs we need to sew from this point to where we made the dart. And once again on both legs. I've stuffed both his legs and sewn across, and all that's left now is to stuff his head and his tummy. That's his head stuffed and his tummy stuffed, and all that remains now is to use a ladder stitch and carefully stitch up the gap. I've carefully sewn up the gap in the back. I've added a ribbon, and that's our Avery Memory Bear all finished.